Hi. First of all, thank you for watching this presentation. Maybe one of the main reasons why you're here now is because you also feel that there's way too much uncertainty around us. What used to work in the past is not working anymore, and we don't know what to do exactly. Hopefully, after this presentation, you are going to know at least some of the main reasons, and also you will have some ideas about what to do next. So let's talk about strategic advantage at times of uncertainty. What do we have to measure that matters? In the spirit of saving the future, let's see how we can ruin it. If you had an evil plan as a leader to disengage employees and undermine the future of your company, how would you do it? Maybe you just have to remember what other leaders did in your previous company, or maybe even in the current one. But just think about it. Sometimes the easiest way to grow is when we don't ruin what we have, when we stop wasting our potential. But later on, we are going to come back to this slide. So when everything feels uncertain, what, if anything, remains certain? Nobody knows the future, but if we understand the trends that shape it, then we can get the organization as future ready as possible. So we know that human skills are the real competitive advantage. That's the reason why we do what we do. But it's becoming increasingly difficult to find talent, and it's not just a theory. Healthy demographics look like a pyramid, lots of young people and a few older ones. They are sustainable. But if you look at the world now, you look at Europe and you look at Japan, it's turning into a Christmas tree. Very few young people and a lot of old people. This is not sustainable. This is the maximum, not the minimum. That's the reason why it's getting even physically more difficult to find talent. But at the same time, it is also getting more difficult to keep them. Companies spend a fortune on engagement programs, well-being programs. But if you look at the numbers, engagement is rapidly declining. It's back to the level where it was more than 10 years ago. Was it a good investment? Why is this happening? Before we talk about that, we have to look at the third trend. That yes, human skills are still the competitive advantage, but it's getting more difficult to support them. Let's be honest, burnout rate is rapidly increasing. If you look at young people, entry-level employees or senior managers, the burnout rate is up by 50% compared to previous year. It's getting worse. People are burning out. So before we move on to the next section, what is the lead indicator and precursor of quality decision making, responsible for 95% of business performance? When I do this presentation, then we hear a lot of ideas, but there is one that is proven beyond doubt, and that is psychological safety. It's that important. But there is a great disconnect. Most of the leaders know exactly how important it is, but only a tiny fraction of them have clear strategies or any kind of measurement practices to address and track it. So they know it's important, but they don't have the solution to optimize it. Why is that? Well, one of the main reasons is that there's a great disconnect somewhere else as well. Because a lot of coaches, consultants, and trainers become professionals in the intercultural field, D&I field, coaching field, including me, because we like people and we are really passionate about a certain topic, which is often based on our lived experience. But on the other side, you have leaders, and they have a duty to maximize shareholder value. They're not evil people. That is their duty. They have to make money. And that's where the clash comes from. Because the coaches want the leaders to understand and value their own topic as much as they do. And the leaders want the coaches to help them make more money because that's their duty. So there is a disconnect between the two. So how can we bridge this gap? Do we really have to choose between the two? That's what we are going to talk about. This is what we do. IC Global is one of the leading experts in measuring team dynamics, data-driven leadership, team, and culture development. We specialize in bridging that gap. So we don't have to choose between liking people and making money. So what should we measure that matters? And when I say matters, I mean it in a context where we can bridge this gap, in a context where companies understand that whatever you're doing as a coach or consultant contributes to their success and their needs. So companies spend a lot of money on leadership programs, engagement programs, but you saw the results. It's not that it doesn't make a difference, but it's getting worse. So technically, the companies are spending money on losing more, on risking the future. So if you look at research, there are three invisible forces that make or break a team. One of them is cognitive diversity. This is the invisible layer. This is the only layer of diversity that has proven benefit in terms of performance. It's often called the immune system of a team. But it's difficult. It's uncomfortable. The way people think when they disagree, that's exactly where the potential lies for success or disaster. And I'll show you an example. So imagine that there's a really smart leader who employs really smart people, but they are not aware of one of the strongest forces in team dynamics, homophilic diversity. It sounds horrible, but it just means that we like and trust people who are similar to us, people who have common sense, technically people who think like us, which means that a team can be individually extremely smart, but collectively blind because they see the world from a similar perspective. They can all agree on something, it doesn't make it true because they have a huge blind spot. And we have hundreds of team scans where we can see exactly the same thing. This is one of them. This was 10 senior leaders from 8 different countries. On the surface, they're extremely diverse. But if you look at the way they think, the way they see the world, the way they approach problems and opportunities, they are very similar. Cognitive diversity is 22%. So if you look at the sliding scales as a range of perspectives, as a range of approaches to problems and solutions, all the 10 people are within this tiny range. So that means that they can have a meeting, they agree on the outcome, feels right, it doesn't make it true because the blind spot is 78%. Are you sure that you can make the best decision? It's unlikely. So if she's aware of this, the leader, that homophilic diversity can be comfortable, but also dangerous, then we have to tap into cognitive diversity. We need people who are smart and also think differently. They have different experience, different cultural background, different personalities, different ways of looking at the same thing. So if we can see the same situation from different perspectives, we can make better decisions, and that is the goal. But here's the catch. The benefits of cognitive diversity are not automatic. It is not based on common sense and good intention, unfortunately. And I'll show you why. Because we need the right environment. And the right environment is high on psychological safety, which is the #1 trait of high-performing teams. And also high on motivation, because you need the desire to learn, contribute, and get things done. This is the key ingredient of engagement and innovation. This is the right environment. So if you look at this chart, for example, this team is in the growth zone, which means that they're high on psychological safety and motivation. If they are lacking both, they would be in the apathy zone. If they have only safety, that's comfortable. And if they are lacking psychological safety, they have motivation only, then they are the anxiety zone. So statistically, as a team, they are the growth zone. So we could walk away thinking everything is fine. But if you look at the individuals, you can see that it's polarized. And even if we have only one outsider, then it can affect performance by 30 or 40%. You can see the tension score, 73% and 65%. That's how polarized the team is. So as soon as you can quantify an invisible concept, you can make it visible and tangible, it becomes more real. It becomes much more manageable. It cannot be dismissed as subjective opinion of someone. But this is not just theory. We had a client who was in the apathy zone, including the CEO, and during our program, This is a gas and oil company. One of the refineries burned down. But on a positive note, one of our biggest case studies in Indonesia, mining company, they had 17 accidents a week. And after a 6 months program, they had zero, and they won the most prestigious awards in this category. They turned psychological safety into physical safety. So would it make sense to know where your team is? Where is your team? How do you know? Are they in the growth zone when they score high on all the three invisible forces? Are they in stage two, time bomb, when they have a problem with one? Is it maybe stage three, decline, when they have problem with two? Or is it game over, when they score low on all three of them? Could you make a better decision if you knew where your team was? So why is it critical to measure what matters? And I can tell you a story, because the stereotype is that men are experts in cars. And definitely I'm not part of that stereotype. This is the dashboard of my car. So one day I saw that the battery was low, and I thought, let's be proactive. I'm going to charge it. I had a charger because I got it from my brother. I Googled how to do it. I charged it all night. In the morning, it was even worse. That didn't make sense. I don't know what happened. So I called my brother and he asked me, did you know that you had two batteries? I said, that's a tricky question. No, I didn't. It's a mild hybrid car. So this one charges when I slow down with the car. Huh. So technically, I put a lot of effort and energy into solving a problem that wasn't a real issue. And this is what happens to many companies as well. Because if you cannot measure what matters, then maybe you optimize something that shouldn't exist anymore, or solve a problem that's not the real issue, like I did. Or you struggle with proving the value of your work and the ROI of the program. And this is what the MIT Sloan Management Review research in 2024 revealed, that most of the leadership programs deliver negative ROI. So companies spend money on it, but they're not getting the benefits. And if you cannot measure it, then you might endanger the future of the company while trying to save it. You have the best intention, but it might backfire. So I ask you an evil question. How would you ruin a company and its future? So we have to know that within the three invisible forces, we have 9 biomarkers of high performance. They are directly linked to profit, growth, and engagement. So I asked ChatGPT, how would you ruin the company? And it came up with 6 steps. First, you have to suppress psychological safety. It destroys courage. It destroys inclusivity and vulnerability. Micromanagement over trust, so people become demotivated. Favoritism. Have your own favorite people. Who cares about equality? Don't do that. So people get really upset. Undermine growth and development. This is a trend that we can see now. There's a lot of uncertainty, maybe recession. What is the first thing that companies cancel? Training and coaching. Let's take away the support when people need it the most. Also, short-term gains as priority. Sometimes companies are trying to cut the fat, but they cut into the meat, unfortunately. The problem is that it can cause more damage than benefit. And also, poor communication. Give enough space to people so they can guess, and it's going to go bad because assumptions tend to be negative and people don't like silence. They are going to come up with an explanation that is probably even worse than reality. So these are the 6 steps, the 6 behaviors that you can intentionally do to ruin the future of the company. The reason why I'm showing you this, because we did hundreds of team scans in hundreds of global companies, universities, government agencies, and we observed the same behaviors. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you do it intentionally or unintentionally. The outcome is exactly the same. That's the challenge. But we don't have to choose. And this is what I promised. You can help people and also you can make money. This is how we can bridge that gap. This is one of our case studies. Fortune 500 company, automotive. This is the global leadership team. They took the assessment and they went the empathy zone. They're leading thousands of people. It's not ideal. 6 months later, this is where they were. At least the team is in the growth zone. As individuals, not all of them. But we can see exactly how much they improved. Psychological safety went up by 30%, motivation 25%. All the biomarkers improved. 4 of them are more polarized, but the overall result is better. This is the level of transparency that we can provide, because guessing and hoping are not options here. Not when it comes to your business and the future of your company. So if you want to be part of it and you want to join hundreds of partners in more than 50 countries, join an amazing community and be ahead of 95% of the competition, join us. In the next certification is going to be in March. If you want to do it internally in a company, internal HR or L&D professionals, that is something we can also organize. So you can roll it out. So we can hand over the keys and then you don't have to depend on anyone. That's the beauty of it. Thank you so much.